another episode of the Inverted Microphone. My name is Rees Goodall. That is Joao Lara Jr. And we've got quite the exciting episode for you on this Wednesday morning. Yes, morning, not afternoon. Joao, how are you doing on this morning?
Look, right now I'm as happy as can be. The football season, or at least the club football season, is finally starting to dwindle little by little. And the thing that I've been anticipating for so long is about to happen. And we obviously know what that is. It's the World Cup, right? I'm honestly very excited for it. Um, my favorite football event that happens obviously every 4 years. And I can't wait. I can't wait until June 11th hits and we're sitting down in front of the TV watching the first game of the World Cup.
Yeah, that will certainly be a good time. Joao has drank so much coffee this morning. He is amped, mainly because he's never been up this early in his life. But we'll talk about the World Cup in a little bit. We'll talk about some of the squads that have been announced, including Joao's favorite player, Neymar, getting the call up to Brazil. But there's one thing that is most important to talk about right now, and that is the Premier League title has been decided. Arsenal Football Club are the 2025-26 Premier League champions. Joao, how are you feeling?
I think credit's due, right? Or you have to give credit where credit's due. This was a long time coming for Arsenal, and I know Arsenal fans struggled a lot because I talk to one on a regular basis, and B, I'm family members with a couple of Arsenal fans as well. So look, they've gone through it. They finally done it. At the beginning of the season, if you were to ask me, I wouldn't be shocked if you said Arsenal were your Premier League champions. And then at the same time, Rees, I was mentioning before in the beginning of the Champions League, Arsenal could go ahead and go all the way. And we talk outside of the show, we talk away from everything. I'm not surprised. I mean, the squad has been a defensive rock. Only 26 goals against them in 37 match weeks played. Again, tip my hat. You finally gone and done it. My respects.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it does feel, or it did feel like it was a long time coming. It was only a matter of time before Arsenal finally got their hands on that elusive Premier League trophy for the first time in 22 years. It, it was the best team in the league this season, and that's just the fact of the matter. Arsenal were unstoppable against the teams below them in the table, well, which is technically everyone, but I mean 7th through 20th at home against the side 7th through 20th in the Premier League. They won every single game, and those were the results that cost Arsenal the title in the last 3 seasons. They were dropping points against these smaller sides that they should have handled with ease, and now they got the job done and they have their hands on the trophy.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way you could put this, right? It's we talked about it last season. Arsenal can't hold up against these mid to lower side teams. They struggle with this. They struggle with that. They've come in this season. They finally started to find this continuity and just sort of start playing in a cohesive manner where you don't need that much firepower up top, and it's gone and it's worked, right? So I mean, again, there's nothing else I can say because once again, it's something that it's a project that took 7 years.
He came in 2019. He came in November, December 2019.
So let's say anywhere from 6 to 7 years.
Okay.
Again, these are what these projects are about. You have to give your manager that trust, that time, that capital. If I'm not wrong, I was seeing some stats about it this morning. 1.5 billion pounds spent in those 7 seasons. He's had the backing, he's had the support. Mikel Arteta has finally come and done it, and I think that's an example that clubs who are rebuilding have to go ahead and follow. But once again, you have to choose the right guy because if you give him that time, if you give him that money, and he doesn't perform, it's quite simply the manager wasn't there doing his job the way he was supposed to.
I do have to say that was one of the worst 6-7 clip farms the inverted microphone has ever seen. I mean, that was forced. You didn't even put any effort. I know you can do better.
No. I was speaking more seriously in like terms in the relate in In terms of the project that Arsenal has managed here since Mikel Arteta took the helm of this football club.
Yeah, yeah, whatever, man. I believe it. But what I do believe is it was an incredible project. I mean, you look at when Arteta came into the fold for Arsenal, he came in and replaced Unai Emery, who, quite frankly, underachieved after replacing Arsene Wenger. And and Arteta, he did struggle in that first year and a half, right? They were not very good through the opening few weeks of the 2021-22 season. After 3 games, they were bottom. They hadn't scored a goal. I think they had conceded nine, five to City, two to Brentford and Chelsea. And then they finished that season fifth, which was also a bottle because they should have finished in the Champions League spots. They threw it away. And then ever since then, the mentality of this club has just gotten stronger and stronger and stronger every season. And I think this season was about getting the job done no matter what. Figure out a way to get these results. That's why Arsenal have won 4 of their last 6 matches in all competitions by a scoreline of 1-0, because they are not trying to overcomplicate things. They are trying to win these matches. I think from here on out, this is where the fun starts. This is where Arsenal can take that claim to become one of the best clubs or not one of the best clubs in England, because Man City, Pep Guardiola is out. We'll talk about that later. I forgot to even think about that. Onslaught with Liverpool hasn't quite clicked, and United's a ways off from being at this level, and Arsenal just need to take control, and I think that's what they're destined to do from here on out.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that as long as Arsenal continues to trust in Arteta, and obviously they continue bringing in these pieces to sort of phase out the now aging, obviously older pieces on this squad, which even then the squad isn't even that old. They'll be in a very cushy spot, and I mean you're also playing the title of best club in Europe here in what, a week and a half or so,
Yeah,
against Paris. So it's definitely exciting times for Arsenal fans, and again, it's a roller coaster. We'll have to see how it loops, how it turns. But in the meanwhile, if you're an Arsenal fan, soak it up.
yeah, that was a good how the wind blows. Wait and see. I'm proud of that one, Joao. I mean, again, the scenes at the Emirates, they have been absolutely incredible. Exactly what you'd hope them to be for a team that hasn't won a title in 22 years. Joao, any other thoughts you have on Arsenal winning the league?
No, honestly, I the only thing I found funny from this was they pulled up the clip of that one Man City fan who had the bottle,
Oh
who
yeah.
had the Arsenal bottle, and then they interviewed him after the game, and he was like, "I didn't want the attention. I didn't want this. I didn't want that." I found it absolutely hilarious, especially because between these two clubs, obviously we've seen before with Holland saying, "Hey, stay humble," right? And then Man City's spiraling down from there. It'll definitely be interesting to see how Manchester City tries to rebuild and come back, and if Enzo Maresca is able to implement a competent system in the first couple of seasons here being back with Man City, but that's another tale for another time.
Oh, I think it's another tale for a few seconds from now. I think that is, you kind of set up the perfect transition there. They kept showing that Man City fan with the bottle yesterday on the broadcast. He changed jackets like 2 different times. It was very weird. Every time they showed him, he had a different outfit on. It did not appear that he had the bottle in his hands, but hey, that was such a plant. I refuse to believe any bit of that was actually real. I think that guy was set up by either Man City or Sky Sports to be there.
Uh, it could be, right. We see industry plants all the time, like in the NFL. That one Chargers fan,
Oh yeah.
who's been fans of what, like, who's been a fan of what, four other teams already.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot about that. That is a good point. Uh Back to the football now instead of these industry plant fans that just quite frankly make you sick. Um that match, the match that seals it, Man City 1-1 draw with Bournemouth. was really a 1-0 loss for 60 odd minutes, and then Holland pulls it back in the 95th minute, which I got to say, my heart sank when that went in. You know, you're looking at the clock and there's about a minute and a half left to play. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh no. Oh no. Here we go again. City's going to come back. Arsenal is watching it from the training ground. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the worst mentality killer you'll ever see. Arsenal will have this happen, go into Palace on Sunday, lose that, and the title will be City's. Thankfully, Anthony Taylor blew for time in time. But I mean, when Savinho broke free there at the end, I was scared out of my mind. He was in acres of space, not enough to cut in and shoot, but enough to play in a good ball. Thankfully, again, City didn't do enough with it. But on the actual 90 minutes, not just the last two, Bournemouth in this game were absolutely incredible. If you wouldn't have known, you would have thought that Bournemouth were the team a few points off top pushing for the Premier League title, and Man City were a team pushing for Europe. Bournemouth were all over City. They created more expected goals, they created more chances. They were so good pushing forward. And it really, really makes me sad that Andoni Iraola is going, because this Bournemouth team has been so fun to watch when they're not facing your team, because they are a pest and they do not give up. Their attacking style is so fun to watch.
I totally couldn't disagree with that. I mean, this Bournemouth squad has been they their rise up to where they're at right now has definitely been impressive. And again, Raiola doing a great job with the squad, but they're trying to stay in those Europa League spots, right? I mean, you have Brighton right below them with 53 points. You have Liverpool above them with 59. And I don't think it's possible for them to catch up because of the goal differential. However, I mean, they're trying to keep those spots. They played with passion. They played with hunger. They played like a bat that was just stuck in a cage, just burst out. And honestly, I love to see that. And for Manchester City, it's a failure. It's a failure. It's a disappointment because you are a squad who has fought through so much adversity. You're finally playing good football. You're dominating these sides. You come from beating what Palace 3-0 a couple weeks back. You can't you can't not come out with an intensity and with the hunger and with the fight that we've seen multiple times this season. I mean, that's a given. Now Pep leaving this squad honestly didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me. It was mentioned before this season, at the beginning of the season, last year, just like multiple times. It was already being mentioned and slated. But it'll definitely be interesting to see where he goes and sort of what happens there. But for this Man City side, things aren't gonna get any easier from here. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about, well, I mean, whoa, Joao, did you have an earthquake down in Tucson there? No, I'm kidding. That chair was quite loud. You got to get some WD-40 on that thing.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
You don't have it readily available. That's poor from you. But again,
Surprisingly not, right?
going back to the match now, City have, again, as you said, they disappointed so much with this game. It was just such a flat performance. And it makes me wonder how much of it is down to the news dropping Monday that Pep Guardiola is to leave Manchester City at the end of the season, because that is absolutely gigantic news. And regardless of if some of these players in the squad may have had an inkling or not about if he was going to leave, that's still going to change your mentality. And I wonder if that played a distraction or not.
I think it definitely could, right? And I think the manager is telling you, hey, let's push, let's try to get this title. We're still in the race, or still whatever. But something deep in you is telling me, hey, this guy's insane. This guy's bailing on us. This guy's leaving us why are we going to continue to fight for him if he's not going to be here anyways? It's not going to matter in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, to be quite frank, City did not fight. It really, really was again such a lackluster performance. I perfectly and wholly believe that it did play an effect on how this game went. Um, but on that news, City leaving, or not City leaving, Pep leaving City, it's a loss of the best manager in modern football history. You can debate where he is in overall Premier League history. I know Joao will have one opinion, um, as will all Manchester United fans, and every other person will have a differing opinion. Um, but that's not the argument for today. That'll be an argument for July 23rd when the World Cup's over and there's no transfers. But um, what was I going to say? Oh, Enzo Maresca's coming in to replace him. But on Pep's side, Joao, you kind of hinted at, what do you think that next step is? Because Jurgen Klopp, when we saw him leave Liverpool, he's now like the director of football with Red Bull or something like that. And on every single Hotel Travago commercial possible with his turkey teeth, his fake teeth. The inverted microphone's goal, by the way, is when we make it big, Joao and I are going to get on the first flight to Istanbul, get all of our teeth ripped out, get new teeth, new hair. Will be beautiful within a week. But what do you think that next step for Pep is?
If you ask me personally, I think that he's conquered club football on a whole. What he's done with Barcelona and what he's done with Manchester City is nothing less than impressive. I think the next step has to be international football. I think that if there's a big vacancy from a top 10 club in the world or top 10 nation in the world, it's sort of irrefusable, and it makes sense in the order that Pep has gone in to sort of take a job like that and try to see if you can compete for a World Cup, or in this case, if it's a European nation, compete for a Euros or compete for a Copa America. If we're speaking of a CONMEBOL nation, I think that's the next step. I don't see him going to club football. I think he's poured everything he has into club football, with two revolutionary styles. I mean, Barcelona with the tiki taka, and then Man City with whatever the heck that was. It was just so diverse in his time with the club. So I mean, international football, I think, is the next step for this guy. I don't see him going anywhere else.
I certainly agree, and he was somebody that was approached by England after Gareth Southgate was sacked. They were kind of told anything could happen, but it ultimately, obviously, did not go to Pep. Um, he was linked with Brazil before they opted for Carlo Ancelotti. Ancelotti was destined for that job forever. He was rumored forever, and he might be in that job forever as well. He's got a contract until 2030. So those two spots ruled off. It's hard to imagine him going Spain because Spain won the Euros. They're prime favorites for the World Cup. So unless disaster strikes in this World Cup, which I do presume to be extremely unlikely for them, Luis de la Fuente is secured in that role. So maybe he'll manage the U.S. when Pochettino leaves.
Hear me out. And this would be any Barcelona's fan, Barcelona's fan's dream. Scaloni has a bad World Cup, gets binned. Pep Guardiola, manager or head coach of the Argentinian national team. It may sound crazy now, but I don't know why. Something inside my gut, inside my chest, is just telling me that this could be something that could happen. I mean, he's familiar with a lot of the players. He's familiar with the system. I don't think it's too far fetched to say that this could be a possibility if Argentina doesn't perform to the standard that they have for this upcoming World Cup.
I wish this had happened like when Messi was like 4 years younger. So we could have gotten Pep managing Messi to win Messi's first World Cup, right? Like how awesome would that have been? Obviously, that's not the case as Messi won in 2022 with Scaloni, but still, that would have been unreal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
alas, football doesn't have dreams. Don't have hopes and dreams. You'll only ever be disappointed. That was a message passed down to me when I was very young. Um, and to be honest, for 22 years, even though I'm not 22, I'm younger than 22. It seemed to be the case, but um, I mean, again, I think back to Pep. I think he'll go kind of the Jurgen Klopp route, where he'll take a few years off. I think because the World Cup's this year, I can't imagine his top priority is to go win a Euros, go win a Copa America, go win a CONCACAF Nations League. I think his top priority, if he were to go into international management, would obviously be to win the World Cup. But I think he would want, I can't imagine he would want the 4 year cycle. I think he would want the 2 year cycle to do so. But again, what do I know? I think we'll see him in commercials. Joao, what company do you think he shows up in commercial wise?
Booking.com. I just feel it. I don't know
Oh,
why.
start a little rivalry up with Hotel Trivago. Bring back the Klopp Pep Derby. I like that. I like that. That's a great shout. Booking.com or Hotel Trivago, whichever one wants to give us a paycheck first. Email me.
Sign the check, lad. Sign the check.
Sign the ting. All right. City. They went Enzo Maresca. Enzo Maresca was destined for this job mainly because he looks like a bald Mikel Arteta, half Pep, half Mikel Arteta. Was formerly with City. He was an assistant coach for a while with them, as well as a part of their academy structure. He left to take the job at Leicester City, where he then left to take the job at Chelsea. He was very good with Leicester, won the championship, got them promoted, did not stay to see them in the Premier League. He left for Chelsea, which he had a very good opening season, got them qualified for the Champions League, won the Conference League, and then eventually, for what it's worth, if you care about it or not, won the Club World Cup. But then it was slowly but surely unraveling, right? They dropped a lot of points. He kind of fell out with a lot of the staff within Blueco, within the hierarchy of Chelsea, and left on January 1st, stepped down. He was not sacked, he stepped down. And it was a very weird situation. He is mentors, or he was mentored obviously by Pep, which is why he was handpicked for this job. But Joao, I'm just curious to get your thoughts on City opting to go Enzo Maresca.
Well, here's the thing, right? I think that Maresca has had his complications at Chelsea because it was something he was building from the ground up. He was bringing in these pieces little by little, seeing if they work. I think that with City, it's not going to be as difficult as a job because you have all these players. You have quality and you have talent that's already been prem proven in all facets and in all places in the pitch. But I think it's the expectation that's going to be very heavy. 20 titles in 10 seasons for Manchester City under Pep Guardiola. It's very difficult to match and it's very difficult to beat. And I think that if you're Enzo Maresca, you're obviously going to want to beat that feat. But it's very difficult when, you know, you have to start from the ground up. But with the players that he has, again, I'm repeating myself, but I think that it's gonna take time. But the man is gonna be able to get the job done eventually.
I agree. And I here's my thoughts on it though. I think Maresca, to expect anything remotely similar to what Pep Guardiola achieved for this club, is nothing shy but foolish. That is a ridiculous assumption to have of what Enzo Maresca can do for this Manchester City side. It's why Pep Guardiola is largely regarded as the best manager in modern football history. I mean, we talked about that earlier on this podcast, right? And it makes me curious to wonder, what does success under Maresca look like? Because Guardiola has built the expectations of this club from absolutely nothing to sky high. He won them their first Champions League. He won them a treble. He won them this, and that, right? He won them every single thing under the sun. He won 6 Premier Leagues in not quite a row, but was it 6 and 7 years? Just there we go, another clip farm. But just again, an outstanding number of trophies won. And I just struggle to see a world where, City can lower their expectations to matching what Maresca can deliver, because it is unrealistic to expect the same as what they were given from Pep, right? And I'm curious, I'm bringing a good friend Luke Lendler's quote on this. Right, I texted him these last couple of days because he supports Manchester City. I support Arsenal. Um, we were texting about the Arsenal Burnley game. Then I asked him if he was excited about Maresca ball. He said he was excited to have less expectations. That is loser talk, dude. If you're a fan, you cannot be admitting that. You got to hold yourself to that standard. You're the board, that's one thing. But Joao, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. If you're a fan of a club that's been so successful, you have to continue that expectation. You have to continue pushing. You have to continue asking for what was given to you for the past 10 seasons. Now, my biggest thing that is definitely going to intrigue me is sort of outside of the pitch and more in the stands. What is going to change with their fans? Because I'm not going to say that all Manchester City fans are plastic, but a lot of the younger generation got into Man City football because of their success, because of Erling Haaland, because of players like even Kevin De Bruyne. You know, they they lose Pep Guardiola, you're gonna lose quality. You're gonna lose the thing that made City City. Are fans going to change affiliations? Are there still going to be the same amount of fans in the stands? These are questions to be asked because there's going to be a drop in quality. There's going to be a drop in play. And again, I just don't know if people will go and continue to support. And I mean, we've seen this with many clubs. What happened with Manchester United when they started you know steadily declining and steadily, dropping in their quality of play. There weren't the same fans in the stands. There were people who were, oh, I was a Man United fan, but I'm supporting them more because they're bad. It could be the same thing for City, and I'm honestly again intrigued to see if the blue side of City stays loyal or they hop ship to somewhere else.
Yeah, and it will be a serious period of transition for this Manchester City club, because it's not just Pep Guardiola leaving. There's a couple of players that are confirmed leaving at the end of this season. John Stones, center back, he was a key piece of some of Pep Guardiola's early transition. Yeah, he couldn't stay healthy, which certainly derailed his impact. But this was a guy who was so versatile as a center back that what we saw from him was such a big piece of what Pep Guardiola's impact on the game was. Having him move in the midfield, it was all sorts of unique philosophies developed through John Stones. And then the captain of the squad, Bernardo Silva, he's leaving at the end of this season as well. I don't think he's been that good this season, but that's a topic for another day. I mean, he's a guy who's been there since 2017 after signing from Monaco. It's just they've got a lot of work to do, and I'd really, it's difficult to judge. It's so difficult to judge.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we see these players continuing to leave, right? And every offseason, we see the rumors: Erling Haaland to Barcelona, Erling Haaland to Real Madrid. Again, pure rumors, but if there's a world without players like that, or players like Bernardo Silva, or just if you keep losing quality, it's going to be difficult to replace it. But I mean, you still have something that you can cling on to and say, I think we'll be all right with this.
I agree. I mean, there's the foundation there. It's not like Semenyo, Holland, unless something crazy happens, are gonna leave in the next year. If not a lengthier period than that. Again, we'll see how the money gets exchanged. That one wasn't very good, but Joao, if you were Manchester United, if you were Aston Villa, if you were Chelsea, even, and you're seeing how the Man City and Liverpool are taking a step back, right? The City are losing the man who made them, and Liverpool lost the man who made them a couple of years ago, won the title, but then it clearly proved to be a fluke with how this season has gone. How do you think their mentality is going to shift given the opportunity that is going to arise for them to not just sneak into the top four, but get into the top three, really two and three? Because I think Arsenal should hopefully have one locked up. But even then, if Arsenal slips up, now you open yourselves up to getting into the title race. How do you think these teams are going to approach this ginormous shift in the league?
Well, I think that they have to approach it with hunger, right? They have to approach it with this never seen before passion, this never seen before grit and fight to try to get a result match week in, match week out. And I mean, it goes alongside with what happens with the directives, right? You have to put in that money. You have to bring in the best physios, the best chefs, the best whoever you need in order to ensure that your players are taken care of. Because if you're not bringing in support for your star players like Bruno Fernandes, who has needed help in the mid for so long, or who has needed a high quality center back for so long, no diss on Matthias de Ligt, who's been somewhat phenomenal this season. You have to help your players out. You have to put everything in to ensure that, hey, if somebody slips, if that one spot slips, you're going to be there to swoop it up, and you're not letting it go because you've struggled and you fought for it and you've wanted it for so long.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Exactly the way you want these players, these teams, these managers, everyone to approach a situation like this. Because, again, the Premier League, it has a chance to look really, really different next season. Way too early. All right. The transfer window hasn't opened. We don't know who's going to play for a lot of these teams. The World Cup hasn't happened. We don't know who's going to manage some of these teams. Well, we
We
do.
do,
That's to be
we
fair. But
we
what was
don't
that?
know who Man City's going to spend 350 million pounds on, because we know it's happening.
That is true. We don't know. Sorry, you worded that wrong. We don't know who Manchester City is going to violate both PSR and financial fair play regulations to sign 115 charges. We'll see how that goes. Maybe that's why Pep left. He knew something was coming there. That's a conspiracy. Um, but what are your way too early top four predictions?
Arsenal.
Number one.
Arsenal number one. I think
Okay.
that if again you bring in good supporting pieces, you play good football, you ensure you wrap up your results like this year, you're chilling. Um, I think number two, if they bring in a good center back, reinforce the midfield, bring in these pieces of depth that they've seen. Manchester United is expected to sign 4 to 5 players this transfer window. I could definitely see them number two. Aston Villa is very iffy at a number three. I think that if they're able to spend that money and if they're able to support their pieces that they've had this season in Morgan Rogers, possibly find someone to move on from Ollie Watkins and find pieces to reinforce that defense, then I would see them at number three. It's just very difficult to say right now. I would possibly have them in the four slot, and I would see. I think Liverpool won't have that bad of a season next year. I think I could totally see them number three. I know we said one through four, but I think Chelsea's going to be that five slot just because they're going to start finding the way steadily with Xabi Alonso, and eventually, they'll be able to compete for those top three within the next 2 to 3 seasons.
I think my worry with Aston Villa, I'll just pick them out of those four because I agree with the other teams you mentioned, and then I'll share my top four. My worry about Aston Villa is the same worry I have for every team that qualifies for the Champions League, and this is something I've said over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and one more over again on this podcast is it's not always a good thing when you don't have the squad depth to get in the Champions League and then compete in the Premier League. But I also think I just wonder how does this squad look next year because Morgan Rogers has been linked with a transfer away pretty much since he put on an Aston Villa shirt for the first time. Where does he play next season? And then without Morgan Rogers, is this that good of a squad? The midfield's okay. Like obviously they've got guys in there that are good Premier League players, but are they good top four players? I don't personally think so. But again, that's a conversation for another day and time. My top four is Arsenal 1, Man United 2. I do think there would be a big enough gap that it's not really a title race, but hopefully, that's a hopefully. Number 3, I have Chelsea, to be honest. I think the doors are going to be open for them to go after it. I think I think the league's going to be quite more spread apart than it is this season, where all the teams are bunched up this season. That's I just struggle to see that being the case next year. I think again there'll be a bit of a drop between United and Chelsea, and then four is again the four is the wild card spot. I'll it's hard to pick. I don't know who I go because I'm not in favor of Liverpool or City, but I think because it's hard to imagine them falling that low, I'll go Manchester City.
I think that's reasonable, and I don't know. I think that Liverpool finds some sort of a footing next year under Arne Slot. I just don't think it's enough. And honestly, if they do end up finishing in that four spot, I could totally see Arne Slot out of a job by the end of next season, if that is the case.
I could see it happening before that, if depending on how it looks at certain points of next season. But we'll see how the buttons are pressed. I don't know. That was bad again. We'll see. We'll wait to talk about the relegation race. No, what? We have time. It's going down to the final day, fellas. It's going down to the final day. Tottenham in 17th, West Ham in 18th, 2 points separating the two. The goal difference, though, is a big enough gap that if Tottenham draw, they should be safe unless West Ham wins 13-0, which would be stunning. But again, we'll see. Tottenham are home to Everton. West Ham are home to Leeds. West Ham needs to win and have Tottenham lose to secure safety in the Premier League. Joao Lara Jr., what are you thinking going into the final day?
I said it before. It's gonna take everything both these clubs have, and it wasn't gonna be easy. And I thought Tottenham had it a little bit more difficult just because they had Leeds, Chelsea, they have Everton, and Everton squad that has been they're starting to see better days here towards the end of the season. They've been somewhat competitive, but even then, just looking at West Ham, they have Leeds, right? I think there's a bigger possibility of West Ham beating Leeds than Tottenham beating Everton. I just I don't know. I'm very torn, right? I'm very torn because I don't know what these final results are going to be. It could go either way. Um, but again, very interesting to see what's happening. And would it be a dream for you to see? Well, obviously, you already saw Arsenal win the Premier League. Would it be a dream for you to see Arsenal win the Premier League and Tottenham go down the same season?
It'd be the double. Who cares about the Champions League? That's the double right there. I think though, back to the two games. I'll talk about the dream more in a minute. Is it's so unfortunate for that dream that the two teams they have to play, West Ham and Everton, or West Ham and Tottenham, they both come in at drastically different form. Leeds is in the last 5 games is fourth best in the Premier League, unbeaten, 3 wins, 2 draws. Everton haven't won once in their last 5 games. They've lost 3 times in that span. They're hemorrhaging goals at the back. It's not been pretty over the last stretch. But
You gotta.
it's the last day. Neither of those two teams have anything to play for. You don't know. I mean, if they get bored, if West Ham goes up 1-0, you think Everton, if Everton goes up 1-0, you think Leeds isn't going to get bored and be like, okay, let's have a laugh here and let West Ham win this game? How funny would that be?
It'd be funny until reports get written and clubs start complaining and you know the FA starts becoming aware of possible collusion. But no, it'd be absolutely hilarious to see that happen in person. Once again, I think with the amount of talk that Tottenham fans have had here in the past year, to be in the position you're in, and to sort of them saying at the beginning of the season, oh, we'll be fine this year because we won the Europa League, because whatever reason they wanted to give, we'll be okay. And for them to be in the position that they're in right now, it's horrible, and things could get Spursy for them. I mean, it's something that we can't deny, right? There's certain clubs in this world that have that gene, and it's not the gene you want them to have. I mean, Spurs in England, Cruz Azul in Mexico. There's this term called una Cruz Azuleada. Like you've done messed it up. You had the game in the bag, you've sold it. You're out in the playoffs, or you've lost the final. I mean,
Didn't they just beat Chivas?
they did, but that
I,
term was prominent
I know, I
for.
know. I just wanted to throw that in there but yeah, I know that was. I apologize for that. Again, it will be hilarious, regardless of what some of the TikTok comments say. It will be funny. We're praying for it, all of us, to all the gods of all the religions. We pray. West Ham 1, Leeds United 0, Everton 1, Tottenham Hotspur 0. That's what we pray. Well, actually, we pray it's like 5-0 Everton, but still. Moving forward, we talked about it earlier. World Cup squads have been announced for a handful of teams. Joao, Lara Jr., South Korea announced theirs. Don't really have too much care. But Brazil, that's the main one we're going to talk about. Carlo Ancelotti, first World Cup in charge of Brazil, made some interesting choices. I think none more interesting than the inclusion of Neymar and the exclusion of Joao Pedro. Now, I'm not saying that those two players should have been swapped. I think Joao Pedro should have gotten in over other players within this Brazilian squad. But there was a lot of talk about Neymar's inclusion. He hasn't played for Brazil in a handful of years because he's been injured. His time in Saudi Arabia was spent on the rehab table. But again, he's also a guy who has scored 79 goals in 128 caps for Brazil. He has more caps for Brazil than he has league appearances for Barcelona, league appearances for PSG, and unsurprisingly, league appearances for Al Hilal. Joao, initially, what are your thoughts on Neymar getting in?
Look, for me, someone who's been a massive Neymar fan since his Barcelona days, I think that this warmed my heart. It filled my heart. I was very happy that he was selected. But I talk about it with different people, and he's selected, yes, but in the back of my mind, I have to live with the thought that he's not the same person. He's not going to have the same impact. He's not going to have that same game he had against Mexico in 2018 when my heart was just ripped out of my chest and curb stomped on the sidewalk. It's just not going to happen. I think stories that are written, right? They have your opening chapters, which a lot of those times were disappointment for Neymar in Brazil. And then, stuff starts turning. You reach your climax with the Olympics, Copa America, and then you hit the decline. You haven't played for them for a while, but I think this book has to close. I think that this World Cup has to be a proper send off for Neymar. And I look at this squad, and it's very difficult to say that it is, right? Just because there's a lot of uncertainty with this team. It's not the best Brazil we've seen in a long time. I think it's one of the worst Brazil squads we've seen in a long time, and it's because a lot of these players aren't at the heights of Ronaldinho, of a Marcelo, of whoever you want to say, right? Past 15, 20 years, it's just not the point. But for Neymar, I think I think it's just to close that chapter and say, hey, we gave you that send off. We hope you enjoyed it, regardless in the way that it ends.
I agree. That is absolutely really what this is all down to. I think my biggest question mark, or the biggest question mark around this inclusion, is how many minutes does he actually play? Because you have Vinny, you have Rafinha, you have Gabriel Martinelli, you have Ryan. Those are really, I'd say that's your starting four wingers. If depending on wherever you play those guys, those are going to be, your depth chart. That's your top four wingers you're going to put out there. You also have Mateus Cunha, you have Endrick, you have Igor Thiago, who's going to play as a nine, which I can't believe he got the call up. But I just struggle to see how many minutes he would actually end up playing for this team. Um, it's interesting, and on Joao Pedro's case, I think he should have been called up over Luis Enrique. He probably should have been called up over Igor Thiago, and I think that's a puzzling exclusion, but I can't say it's going to make that big of a difference for Brazil.
No, and I think it's just it's very disappointing, right? But I think next season we're gonna see a motivated Joao Pedro, especially for missing the national team like this. I think that he's gonna try to prove a lot of doubters and a lot of haters wrong, and I think he's capable of doing it. But I mean, you spoke on Neymar in minutes. I think they'll probably play him in the friendly against Panama if he's fit to play. See how many minutes he can get there. I think he's a last 15-minute type of guy. And realistically, I mean, the game where he can get most minutes is against Brazil and the ex Phoenix Rising player Carl Saint.
Yeah.
If they build a cushy lead in the first half, I think we could see 45 minutes out of Neymar, and we're gonna get videos on Instagram for days. Every time Neymar touches the ball, the stadium is gonna go crazy. Um, but I think that's all we get.
Inject
I
it
don't see this going any further.
inject it all into my veins, though. I do want that to be known. I will be there for every just camera shot of Neymar during these games. They play in, I don't want to call it an easy group, but it's not a hard group. There's harder groups for every nation. They've got Morocco, who was in the third place game. They lost it in the last World Cup. They are a very good team. They just won or lost AFCON, depending on who you ask. They lost the match, somehow won the trophy. But then there's Haiti, who you alluded to, CONCACAF side, first World Cup since 1974. And they have Carl Saint in the squad. That's enough to say, hey, that should be a walkover. And then it's Scotland, who politely,
Scotland.
come on now, let's be realistic. This is not a very good team, not known for their international success. First World Cup since 1998. They've only made 3 international tournaments since 1998, but we'll see. Um, Elsewhere within Brazil's squad, I'm just gonna like list off their depth chart because goalkeeper, you're well set compared to many other nations. You got Alisson, who is one of the best keepers in the league. Not as good as he was a few years ago, but still very, very good. Ederson, who again isn't as good as he was a few years ago, but still good. Your center back depth is Marquinhos and Gabriel Magalhaes from Arsenal. That is unreal. Having Gabriel and Marquinhos paired next to each other, two of the best center backs in the Champions League this season, that is going to be unreal next to each other for Brazil during this World Cup. Your fullbacks, let's not talk about them. Danilo and Alexandro likely. Very old Danilo and Alexandro. After all these years, somehow it's still those two. Your midfield is interesting, but also old. Casemiro, Bruno Guimaraes are the penciled in starters. Lucas Paqueta and Fabinho also in there as well. And then the front three is just very un-Brazilian. Vinicius Jr., Rafinha, and then Mateus Cunha as the nine, I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know what that's going to look like. But as you mentioned earlier, this is a bad Brazil team.
And I think this goes more down into, what style of play they wanna use, and how hard they want to work, because before, Brazilian squads were able to get by on talent. I mean, they were so talented that not that much effort was required, and now it's that talent. Yes, it's still there, but it's not as much as before. So if you work hard enough, right, and if you create this cohesion with your teammates that we've seen in past Brazilian squads, and if you work for each other and do everything that you have to do, you could go far. You could beat these squads, but it's just very difficult to gauge that. I mean, you mentioned that top three. It's not familiar. It's not familiar. It's not good. I mean, I think you can play Igor Thiago as a nine, try him out in that game against Panama, try him out in that game against Haiti, see sort of how it goes from there. And but I mean, you have options, but it's going to be a very unconventional top or front three, if you want to say it that way.
Absolutely. And it's again, it's so un-Brazilian. I'll never be able to stop talking about how my disdain for Igor Thiago. He's second in the Golden Boot race. Unless he scores 6 goals on Sunday, he's going to stay there. He's got 22. But I don't know. I've never been fond of him. I never will be. He's a poacher, and that's not what a Brazil striker should do. But I don't know. Enough about Brazil. You mentioned it, Carl Saint to the World Cup, Joel Margarita, the World Cup, couple Phoenix Rising players to be representing in the World Cup, former Phoenix Rising players, but still cool nonetheless. But bigger news: France released their squad, absolutely loaded. Let me read you off. I'm only going to read the forwards off. This is unreal. Kylian Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, Marcus Thuram, Bradley Barcola, Michael Elise, Magnus Akaluche, Desiree Doué, Ryan Cherke, and Jean-Philippe Mateta. That is unbelievable. The midfield, N'Golo Kante, Chouameni, Manu Kone, and Zaire Emery. It's unreal all across the pitch. The back line, Saliba, Konate, Upamecano as your center backs. Jules Koundé. It's such an incredible squad that France is going to put out for this World Cup. Obviously, we'll have more breakdowns when other teams release theirs because I'm not going through a 55-man squad of Paraguay. But, Joao, what are your thoughts on that French team?
This is a squad where your talent alone can take you very far. Again, this is going to depend on the work ethic and how much do these French players want it, but they have all the tools to make it work. The dream is most definitely alive if you're French or a French fan. I mean, just with that attack, imagine, right? You're being hit for 90 minutes with I'm just gonna throw a random three out there: Bradley Barcola, Ryan Cherky, or Ousmane Dembele, Ryan Cherky, and Kylian Mbappe. It's minute 75. You're like, oh, finally they're getting subbed off, and you have players like Bradley Barcola, Desiree Doué, and Jean-Philippe Mateta, or Olise, or however you want to plug it in. That is absolutely insane. That's something that you rarely see, especially from an attacking perspective. And again, this applies in many facets of the pitch. But this France team is definitely one of the favorites to win it, especially with this squad, and especially with the way that some of these players listed here have been playing. Very exciting times for France.
I agree. I agree. I mean, again, with the five substitutions that we've become accustomed to in world football, what France are going to be able to do with that is incredible. I'm so excited to see. And if I'm a rock, I'm praying. I'm praying to the heavens for mercy. To be fair, France don't have the easiest of groups because Norway and Senegal, they both announced their squads tomorrow. Those are not walkovers. Senegal is a very, very good team. They should have won AFCON. They won AFCON, again, depending on who you ask. And Norway have these two players named Erling Haaland and Martin Odegaard. Not sure if you've ever heard them. It's just the best goal scorer in the Premier League and the captain of the Premier League winning side. So they're not
Pretty
walkovers.
underground. Yeah, pretty underground.
Absolutely. No one's ever heard of them before. One more squad to look at before we go, because everybody else is just on the preliminaries, except for a handful. But like it's Croatia and Scotland who've announced their squads, so I don't really care. But the other one's Portugal. Portugal have announced their squad. We're not talking Scotland ball. Thank the Lord for that. I don't want to be doing that ever. Cristiano Ronaldo headlines the squad. The main thing to look at is the midfield, because the midfield depth is, oh my God. Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, Ruben Neves, Vitinha, Joao Neves, and Samu Costa. Samu Costa, congrats on being named on this podcast. It will be the first and last time, because you will not be seeing the pitch during this World Cup, given the names ahead of you. Joao, with the five players, minus, of course, Samu Costa, how do you line that midfield up?
I just looking at it, right? Vitinha has been more of a player who can play box to box, but also he's been highlighted for his defensive attributes. I think that he has to play. Um, it depends if they want to play a center defensive mid or a center mid. I think that he fits perfectly in a center mid, along a center mid position alongside with Joao Neves. I think this Joao Neves again. He's someone who can roam. He's someone who can intercept passes, interpret space very well. Play that along with Bruno Fernandes, who again you play him in the 10 position. I think that's where he's best suited. Why? The way he can carry the ball, the way he holds the ball, the way he distributes. Not only that, if he wants a go from outside the box, I mean, he can go ahead and try it. Has it been successful all the time? No, but it's you have those options in that midfield is absolutely scary, right? And once when you have players who get tired, you have Bernardo Silva who can come on, do similar job to Joao Neves, maybe not at the same quality, right? Because he's older, things change, but still. And then you have Ruben Neves who can come on for Vitinha, and just in case if you want to do some load management, just because there's a lot of games. But I think those three that I first mentioned, Joao Neves, Bruno Fernandes, and Vitinha, have to be the ones on the pitch for this Portuguese side.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, because, Joao Neves and Vitinha have been one of the best midfields in that duo, alone with PSG over the last couple of years. To get him into the World Cup squad that's to get that duo, to get that chemistry in the World Cup squad is unreal. But that the midfield isn't the most important, controversial topic within this Brazil wrong Portuguese speaking language. Portugal. It's the attack. All right, I'll list off the players they have that can play there. Cristiano Ronaldo, captain of the squad, 41 years old, somehow, some way, still chasing 1,000 goals. Then Joao Felix, Cristiano Ronaldo's club teammate at Al Nassr, Rafael Leao, Gonzalo Juarez, Gonzalo Ramos, Pedro Neto, Francisco Trincao, and Francisco Conceição. It's weird because you have Leao, who has been very good. Joao Felix, but he's been great for Portugal over the years. And Gonzalo Ramos has been so good in a Portugal shirt that I think that's probably how you line it up. But then you got Cristiano Ronaldo pouting on the bench. How do you go about this?
This is very difficult, right? Because this reminds me of the meme with the three dragons, where it's like these two like intense, like tough looking dragons, and then the other dragon is just like cartoonish. Like it looks like it doesn't belong there. I think this is what's happening with the forwards in Portugal squad now. It hurts me to say this as well, because again, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Neymar Jr., maybe someone else. Those were figures in our childhood when we were watching football that we were saying, "Wow, these guys are just absolutely amazing." But that time is starting to come to a close, and this book is slowly closing for Cristiano Ronaldo and his Portuguese national team as well. That you have to, give him minutes, because if not, he's going to pout. He's going to go to the media. He's very influential. And that hurts me to say. But if you're Portugal and you want to go for what's best, I mean, you have to look at a FIFA Ultimate Team legend, Gonçalo Guedes, or if not, maybe even Francisco Conceição, and hope that they get the job done. But it's just he's not favored in that striker position. And I think that this Portugal squad is, I'm not going to say it's going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be held back, but it might as well be held back if you're starting Cristiano Ronaldo for 90 minutes.
I agree. I mean, we saw what happened in the Euros, which, my word, was that one of the more ridiculous things we've ever seen. In that round of 16 match against Slovenia, I forgot who for a second, where Ronaldo was just forcing things. He was taking free kicks from distances that he hasn't scored in 15 years. The only way he's scoring those now is when he turns on his PlayStation. He was just forcing things, and it got so bad that he was crying on the pitch. He missed a penalty. It was just a ridiculous sequence. He did make his penalty in the shootout. But I just don't think. I think it'd be much better for Portugal to have this distraction gone.
And I again, very difficult for me to say it, because Ronaldo's someone I don't want to say idolized, but someone I definitely loved watching while growing up. I think he will see minutes against Congo, or Democratic Republic of Congo. Sorry, didn't mean to
Yeah, you
mistake
just
that for anyone.
restarted a civil war. Or not really a civil war, is it? But yeah.
And then Uzbekistan. I think he sees minutes against both of those sides. But again, against Colombia, it's very difficult, because Colombia they're, I want to say they're a heavy hitter, and it's not necessarily because of the talent that they have. I think they have talent in every sort of part of the pitch. It's just they're such a gritty squad, and they're a squad that's going to break you down over the course of 90 minutes and have you wondering, why the heck am I even playing this sport anymore? But with Cristiano Ronaldo, again, difficult. But yeah, I think this is the end of the line for him. And again, if Portugal wants to succeed and try to go as far as they can, it's sad to say, but it's something without El Bicho, as they call him.
I I'm looking at Portugal's fixtures, right? And I can't decide if it's in the perfect order or if it's in the worst order because you open up against the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You then play Uzbekistan before going to Colombia. You already said that. The two games against the DR Congo and Uzbekistan on paper are really, really easy, right? Where if you get your job done in those two games, you can go into the Colombia game and have your spot in the knockouts already secured, and you're just playing for seeding, which is best case scenario for Portugal in that game. But if you drop points against one of or both the Democratic Republic of the Congo or Uzbekistan, and you have to go in to Miami to play Colombia to get a result, that atmosphere in Miami is going to be crazy. You've got to beat Colombia, who you mentioned it, the style of play is frustrating to go up against. Portugal would be out. This
Yeah,
is hypothetical.
the hypothetical, right? But I don't think it happens in terms of the defensive quality that they have because it's definitely there, it definitely exists, and just the quality in the midfield as well. I don't see them dropping points for that reason. I think that even off of a set piece, maybe it's a defender who scores. Who knows? But there's more possibilities than just offense scoring for Portugal. But their squad is just too well rounded to see them dropping points. But again, that's the beauty of football. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And again, it's just it's gonna be how the wind blows. It's really just gonna be that
Yeah.
how the palm tree sways.
I agree. I think a point that I left out that I didn't realize I had is the two games against DR Congo and Uzbekistan. Both of those teams, that is effectively their World Cup final, right? Especially for the DR Congo game, just because it's the first game of the tournament. But they haven't played in a World Cup since 1974 when they were Zaire. Um, and then Uzbekistan, this is their first ever World Cup. That certainly adds a little bit of an edge to both those teams, where an upset would be possible just because they're pushing hard. But that's really why I said that.
And I don't know if you saw, but for DR Congo, their iconic fan, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Lumumba has been approved to come to the United States for the World Cup, so we'll see him in the stands, standing in his iconic tribute pose. So who knows?
Well,
Maybe those.
to be fair, he's not actually Lumumba. He's paying
I know he's not
tribute to
Lumumba, but
Lumumba, but yeah.
that's what they've
But yes,
that's what
yes.
they've given him as a
He's paying tribute to
to
former Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba. He
Lumumba.
died in 1961 at the age of 35 via an assassination by firing squad. Rest in
R.I.P.
peace. Before it came home to England and before he got to see his nation in the World Cup not once but twice. That was a ridiculous ending to this episode of the Inverted Microphone. We're talking about assassinations to DR Congo prime ministers. I think it was just the Congo then, but again, don't want to start a war. Joao Lara Jr., do you have one last message for the people?
Drink water, stay hydrated, and remember to follow the Inverted Microphone on all platforms. That Spotify podcast, TikTok, X. We finally have an X.
We call it
And
Twitter.
yeah, Twitter. And yeah, you can find me at Joao Pedro Jr. on Twitter. Reese, where can our good friends find you?
At Rees Goodall on Twitter. Joao, I don't really know how to outro it now because I like saying your Twitter, but I'm all lost now. But it's a beautiful game. But it's way more beautiful when Tottenham Hotspur open next season with Lincoln City away. Goodbye, everybody.